to Resilience Plus Rise, the podcast where resilience is not just a concept, but a lived experience. I'm your host, Thomas Scaria, a resilience coach, an ultra marathoner, and a relentless believer in the human spirit's ability to rise. This podcast is a companion to my book, Resilience Plus Rise 26.2 Transformative Miles to Unleash Your Marathon of Life Mindset. Each episode of this podcast is a raw, unfiltered dive into the stories of those who have faced life's hardest battles and maybe still continuing to face them. But they are emerging stronger and stronger as they keep on the fight. Today, for me, it's a huge honor, privilege, and a pleasure to get back Michael Mintz. Michael Mintz, he's, as I would say, one of the movers and shakers in the corporate world. He's an advisor to many of the CEOs and executive teams. He believes when inspiration fails, let me put it again. When inspiration fades, structure endures. He has got a methodology, what he terms as the SCAR to standard method, that turns leadership into enforceable standards. He believes in many coaches. He just doesn't talk about coaching personalities or chasing motivation. He rebuilds humans to be better leaders. So without taking more of your time, Michael, welcome back to Resilience Plus Rise, the podcast.
Thank you, Thomas. I'm so excited to be here. We had such an amazing conversation the last time we spoke, and actually I was in my car, because I was in between, and it turned out to be such an amazing conversation. I loved it and had such a great time. So I'm excited to be back here today.
Fantastic. So let's jump directly into the meat of what I just spoke about.
Mm-hmm.
The scars to standards.
Mm-hmm.
For the people who want to know more about it, what's it all about?
In my own leadership, I've noticed this, and then as I over the last year been advising CEOs and executive teams, what I noticed is that they were repeating a lot of the same mistakes, repeating a lot of the same things that leaders do over and over without really understanding why do we continue to make these bad decisions. And what I learned is that all of us have scars from the decisions that we make. Okay, you can go back and you can track them, scar. But what happens is we don't take those failures, we don't take those scars and turn them into non-negotiable rules for our lives, whether it's personally, which that's where it started for me, was personally, right? Or in my leadership, okay? And because we don't take it and examine it for what it was and say, okay, that was painful, okay? What am I going to do different going forward? What rule am I going to write? What standard am I going to create for myself or for my company or my team so that we never, ever make that same mistake again, because that was costly and painful. So that's kind of where it came from. I'll tell you that in the middle of me having this whole thought processes and my mind's being flooded with why, it was right about the time where the CEO of Cracker Barrel made such a horrendous mistake. And when you read about it and you learn, she made decisions as a CEO, right, that cost them millions of dollars. And so that was painful. That's a scar. So if I was advising them, I would say, hey, let's go back and see, how did we get here? Well, she had, as the CEO a lot of times thinks, she had power, and I'm sure in her mind didn't think she needed to run this by anyone else. So she made some decisions for both the branding, right, and their message I'm believing didn't have a full understanding of who their customer was, and it was painful. It was a huge scar. So if I was advising them, I'd say, okay, what do we do differently going forward? Because that was too painful to repeat again. And simply, there has to be 1, 2, 3, or 4 people who sign off in addition to the CEO anytime we want to make a change to our message or our branding or to who we believe our customer is. That way, no one has the power to change it. And so, we all make failure. We all have scars. We all have failures. The problem is we don't want to admit as leaders, okay, that was painful. I never want to repeat that again, right? And if I'm the one that goes first, if I'm the CEO and I go first and say, okay, I screwed up, right?
Mhm.
I'm going to put this rule into effect for myself and the company so we don't repeat that again. And then what you find is that the leaders underneath, that middle row of leaders underneath the CEO, they go, wow, I've made some of the same mistakes. I got some really big scars as well. I don't like that I keep repeating the same mistakes. And the reason we do is because they're in our memory, right? We remember them. But when we're having to make executive decisions in the moment, our memory is not what pops up, right? What we're trying to accomplish pops up. Whereas if you had some non-negotiable rules in place where hey, this happened before and we made this rule, we don't ever cross that line again, then you save yourself from making those mistakes again. The fear should not be in business making mistakes. The fear should be not learning from our mistakes and putting standards or rules in place that keep us from ever making the same mistake again. My father used to tell me, Mike, there's nothing wrong with failure. The only problem that you have in failure is if you don't learn anything, if you don't learn and grow, then it was wasted effort, which I see that all the time, Thomas. I see all this wasted effort inside of leadership teams where they're making mistakes, but they're not learning and growing forward from the failure, right? Because this is what we do and this is how we do it. And we give people the freedom, right? The freedom is what they call it. We give people the freedom to make mistakes. Okay, how about we give them the freedom to learn from their mistakes and put rules and standards in place so we don't keep repeating the same stuff. If you look at failures that have been made in big companies, they happened before. It wasn't the first time it happened. Okay. It was something that no one ever created, usually because no one wanted to admit, oh my God, that was a big failure.
Of course.
Yeah. So I realized I ranted and raved there for
No,
a minute.
no. It actually, I was just thinking it's an amazing 101 on when people, they do not acknowledge their failures, scars, or at times the hiccups towards the growth of the organization.
Right. Well, the history of leadership is, because it's ego a lot of times, is we refuse to admit a failure was a failure. Right. So we say that was unfortunate. That didn't go the way it was planned. It was the market. It was the situation. It was I had bad people, or I'm realizing that
excuses
bad people.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not, I'm learning that there aren't as many bad leaders as I thought there were. What there is that leaders who never learn from their failures. That's what we have more of. They're not bad. They're not incapable. They're just not learning and growing from their failure, from their scars. And I love the word scar. I love the word scars.
Okay.
Because I have scars. And even for men, sometimes we kind of wear a scar like a badge of honor, right?
True.
But we don't do it in leadership. Why is it we don't wear our scars in leadership as a badge of honor? Look, I have a scar in my leadership. It's ugly. I'm just going to be honest with you. It is an ugly scar, both personally and in my leadership and in my growth as a leader. And it is ugly. And what I did as a result of that, and now going back and looking, I created some non-negotiable rules for myself at the time.
Okay.
There were 7 of them, 7 non-negotiable rules, so that I don't ever repeat what I consider the worst failure and scar of my life and my career as a leader.
Okay. Would I be in privy to know those 7 solutions, or it won't be I mean, if it is just few of them for the listeners, that when they are looking through their scars, first and foremost, of course, it is acknowledging that you got a scar.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the other ones that, if you're okay to say, otherwise we can move on to the next question.
What are some of the non-negotiables?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, one of them is, it was right at the top. I can't tell you. I don't want to tell you all of them because it involves, sure. My family and my marriage. But at the top,
let's talk from the career.
No.
Maybe from the corporate point of view.
I'm happy to share this to you. Look, God got me where He has because I learned and grew. One of the bigger ones was I decided never to have a drink outside the presence of my wife. Not a beer, nothing. No, never again will I consume any alcohol outside. Now, since then, I've given up drinking altogether, just but at the time, it was only in the presence of my wife. Only if she's with me, never again. Okay. Another one was I never put myself in compromising situations.
Okay. That's a powerful take, because people.
And because my failure, my big one was a failure of the heart between my wife and I. And so it greatly affected my leadership, greatly affected. But what happened, because I learned and I grew from it, and you can ask some of the people, a lot of the people that were on my team before this and after this said that who I was changed radically as a result of this failure and this scar. Okay. How I treat people, how I love on people, how I care about people, what's important to me. Because prior to this failure, my mantra was, don't get between me and what I want, because you won't like it. Because I was ruthless. Me being successful in life was my only goal in life.
Oh.
And I kind of crushed anybody that got between me and my goal. And so and what happened when I look back after it, I go, wow, I left bruised and damaged bodies all over the side of the road, So that was the beginning of me putting some pretty serious rules in place, not standard. I didn't know at the time they were standards. I just put some rules in place for me personally. The very next thing, as I began to realize how great this was working, as I began to examine a lot of the failures I had as an early leader. And I went back and changed a lot of those, right? And one of the rules that I put into place is my opinion is worth less than the rest of my team.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And because before that, my opinion was everything. I thought I knew more than everyone. Come to find out, because I had surrounded myself, one of my things I do as a leader, surround myself with great people. And what I came to learn is I was not the smartest guy in the room.
That's a big acknowledgement, because a lot of people, especially, I won't say leaders, but then people who are right on top, they do have the halo, saying that because they are in that position, they are one of the best.
Yes.
And I think so that's where a lot of people get challenged. Which gets me to my next question, is that what would be the 2 or 3 top failures of the C-suite executives, or the people who run this multi-million or billion-dollar company? What could be the 3 ones, and what could be 2 or 3 elements that they could use to hold them accountable, responsible, or to get to the next level of being a good leader?
Well, that's an incredibly deep question. That's kind of
let's skip, because guys, sorry, Michael. And guys, I'll be putting out Michael's contact information down in the comments below. So if these type of questions has intrigued you, do reach out to him and find out what else is possible. So, but yeah, I would say I would boldly say, just skimming the surface, what would those be?
I think one of the first ones, Thomas, is this belief that I have to have all the answers.
Okay, beautiful.
Okay. As a CEO or as the founder or as an executive, C-suite leader, our belief is that I have to have all the answers, and that is simply not true, and actually never has been true. Because if you're the only one with the answers, that means you've surrounded yourself with a plethora of idiots. Okay. And so the goal is to surround ourselves with absolutely the best people we can get our hands on, and then trust them to do the job that we're paying them to do. Okay. I found number two, that, this belief that the boss is the leader, okay, the CEO is the leader, is not necessarily true either. And here's what I mean by that. I said it incorrectly, but I'll re-say it. This belief that the CEO has to be some loudmouth, passionate, throwing stuff around kind of leader, that he's intense, and I find that that's probably far less true today than it's ever been. Okay. The leaders that I find are having the most success are kinder, quieter, softer, but they know exactly where they're going. Okay. So, and so because it's what happens is in this CEO driven world that we live in, or executive leader, where I'm the king, I'm the power, what it does is it creates a vacuum when it comes to any kind of great ideas, any kind of new ideas, any kind of new rules or new structures or new standards, and what happens is everyone is afraid to give their opinion. Okay.
Oh, yes.
And I find that in most board meetings, okay, people are sitting there terrified to voice their opinion. Okay. Because either it doesn't matter, okay, or you don't get to talk while I'm talking. And I've learned there's a couple of leaders, I'm not going to point them out, but in their meetings, they are the last to speak.
Okay.
The last to speak. And so what you do is you give the people that you've surrounded yourself an opportunity, without opening the meeting and starting the meeting with, hey, this is how I want the meeting to go. You just say, okay, we're here. Tell me what you need to tell me. Tell me what's on your mind. Tell me what's important. And what you begin to hear is what's really going on, what's really breaking down. Okay. Most leaders don't want to know that anything's breaking down.
Oh, yeah.
I'm paying you to fix it, so fix it. So those are probably one and two, and then three, believe it or not, is that as the CEO, as the leader, that I have to have my life all together. Okay.
It's a journey.
And so the truth is the journey. I said, look, stop pretending that you're perfect when you already know you're not. Stop trying to put yourself up on this pedestal because you believe that's where you need to be in order to lead. I find that people would much rather follow a flawed, scarred leader who understands that's who he is and that he's learning and growing, than they had someone who thinks they're perfect when they know they're not. So I would much rather, and I find that middle management leaders would much rather follow a CEO or executive leader who is open and honest and vulnerable about their mistakes and their failures and their scars, and we talk about them. And my goal is to keep you guys from repeating the same failures and same scars that I have, just like we do as a parent.
Fantastic. So, guys, now this is here where we change the trajectory. Now, if you believe Michael is just with the CEOs and the multi-million-dollar company, there's another part of Michael which he's absolutely passionate about. He is passionate about educating people. It's not in US or in Texas, but it's on the other side of the globe. It's in Nepal, wherein he's raising communities and he's helping them to go further. So, Michael, would you tell the audience what's this passion about that across the globe? Why? And what's been happening?
I get that question a lot. In fact, just the other day, somebody said, well, why are you taking your monies and planting them halfway around the world? Why not next door here in America? I go, well, the only way I know how to answer that is that's just not where God led me and God gave me a heart for.
Mhm.
Back in 2015, my best friend, who is a missionary to Nepal, the day after the earthquake in Nepal in 2015, he called me and said, hey, I need you to bring some money and yourself, and I need you to come help me. And I said, okay. And so I got there. Long story short, I fell in love with a couple who ran a faith-based school there in what was a community that was, 90% Hindu. I fell in love with them. Then I fell in love with the people. Then over the course of the years, we, in addition to supporting that school, we started supporting an orphanage, and then we kept going and doing things for people. And now it's kind of turned out where I'm getting the opportunity to speak to and to encourage and to help grow the pastors of Nepal. And so this past January, I was there for 2 weeks, and we had 2 leadership conferences of well over 175 leaders and pastors, where we're teaching them leadership, teaching them how to lead. Okay. And just like seminary here, seminary teaches you a lot of things, but what it doesn't teach you to do is how to lead people. Okay. And so you would be so surprised how so very grateful they are that someone will come and spend the time to teach them leadership skills, teach them how to lead people. Another one of the things that I want them to completely understand, that if God calls you to something, he's going to equip you and provide for you the resources you need. Because a lot of times they had their hands out to the churches of the West in the United States. Can you support us? Can you help us? And I said, no, that's not what God's called you to do. God has called you to be self-sufficient. I guarantee you, it's over and over in the New Testament, is God has called you to something. And if you feel called to something, he's going to equip you, and he's going to give you the resources you need in order to accomplish that, because you see it over and over and over and over in the Bible. Okay. And so this concept to them was like, wow, I'm not really sure we've ever thought of that. And we talked about that, and we're teaching both leadership and business skills, as well as how to get people to want to follow you, So the response from the pastors has been overwhelming. We're already planning to do a streaming event in September for hopefully twice as many pastors. And then 2007 in April, we're going to be able to do 4 leadership conferences, one in Kathmandu, one in the northern Nepal, at eastern Nepal, and western Nepal. So I'm very, very excited about teaching leadership, about teaching growth.
Fantastic. Guys, so if this has stirred something up within you, that whether it's not only about promoting God's word,
Right.
what Michael believes in, but also what he has mentioned is that there are orphanages, there are skill development areas, and Nepal is not in that particular area where everything is given to them. They got to work hard.
Right.
And Michael believes he is one of the messengers that's helping the people to grow. If you believe there is an opportunity for you to tie up with Michael in some way, whether it is in this goal or whether it's in the leadership of your organization, do connect with him, and he will provide you. He may, as he mentioned, he may not have all the answers, but he could direct you to where the answers could be there. And who knows where this partnership could lead to.
Great.
So, Michael, as the last part, is there a final thought that comes to your mind before we can conclude this session?
Yeah, before I answer that question, Thomas, let me just make sure that I did not include in the school that we support. Last year we provided 60 scholarships. Okay. Scholarships that cost somewhere between $600 and $800. So $600 to $800, depending on their age, will educate them for an entire year and provide 1 meal a day. And I'm telling you this because this is in a world, in a country where an education is the difference between below poverty and the ability to take care of a family. So it's incredibly important having an education. This year, our goal is to provide 100 scholarships for the school. When we first met them, they were about 95. Today, there's 675 children in the school. That's how much it's grown. Okay, and that's because we're providing scholarships for children who otherwise, and a lot of these children, they're single parents, usually moms. Okay. Who have multiple children and they're trying to get some of their kids educated. And so every time we're so amazed, every time we provide a scholarship and we meet the parent, which is usually a single mom, she cries and weeps because she's so grateful that we're helping give her child or her children an education that she knows and understands is absolutely going to change their life and then her life as well. So it's probably one of the greatest things we do. Over the last 2 years, we've also added the orphanage. Raj Kumar is the guy that runs the orphanage, an amazing man. Always has a smile on his face. And he has anywhere from 35 to 40 children in his orphanage. He finds them in the slums of Kathmandu. He's been doing this for a long time, just not as organized as it is today. In fact, he's doing his job so well, the government of Kathmandu gave him a building to use for free, which is unheard of. But anyway, we're also providing those children scholarships to be able to go to school as well. So this year, the goal is to have 40 scholarships for him as well. Cost is a little bit less, it's about $300 to $400 a year. So very involved in education. Okay, very involved in education. And now the new passion, as I said, that we've added is deciding that we're going to be a support for pastors, not necessarily funds, but in teaching you how to fish rather than just giving you fish.
Fish, beautiful.
So, okay. So lastly,
Fantastic.
to ask me one more time, I forgot the question.
So as a parting thought, what would you like to tell, whether it's the corporate leaders or people who are giving themselves to help the betterment of humanity? Any last parting thought that you would like to put across?
Yes, I think, and there's a lot of leadership training out there. There's a lot of leadership training. And I'm not saying this to speak negatively about any of it. What I'm learning, that leaders don't need more leadership training. That's what I'm finding. What they need is a method that they can use. An operating system is what I call it. The Scaria standard method is a leadership operating system, not training. Okay. Training usually is about motivation and inspiration. You need to be better. You need to be a better leader. Well, I'm trying to be a better leader, but it's just not working. Okay. Can you give me some ways to do that? And so I think that we found that, right? I don't, as a CEO, I don't need the people that work for me to be better. I need them to be smarter. Okay. When I say smarter, I mean, look, let's look at the failures and the scars that you have, and let's determine what caused those, right? What was the cause? Okay. Let's then, okay, what can we put into place? What rule can we put into place so that we don't repeat that ever again? Okay. And then now let's write it down and make it law inside your mind, your heart, and in the company's mind and heart, so that the people that come after you, they don't ever repeat that scar again either. And so this work, and the amazing thing, Thomas, is that it works both personally as well as corporately. Okay. I can tell you that I know right now, because I've been that guy. There are leaders out there that there's some rules, there's some standards they need to apply to their personal life right now, because they continue making the same mistake over and over personally. And there's some corporations out there that desperately need to put some standards in place so we don't keep making the same mistake. Okay. You notice even today, there are still companies who think that they've arrived and stop being relevant, right? They're no longer relevant. Okay. And you go out of business. I think the reason is because we don't learn from mistakes. Did you know it's also possible to learn from other companies' mistakes?
So true.
Like Cracker Barrel. Okay. Hey, that was bad. They got stink all over themselves from that. How can we learn and grow from that mistake? How can we keep from making that exact same mistake? And you put something in place. You put a standard in place that is in writing, non-negotiable. These are Mike's non-negotiables. These are Thomas's non-negotiables. This is XYZ company's leadership non-negotiables, and everybody that works there knows them, understands them, and uses them on a daily basis, so we don't repeat the same killer mistakes that potentially are in the least case are going to cost us money. In the worst case, they're going to put us out of business.
Guys, this is not worth listening once, but it's worth listening X number of times. And this was such an amazing journey that you took us through, Michael. There has been so many learnings, so many nuggets, as I would talk about, so many chapters. Even if you spend few minutes just to ponder over it, it's worth a lot. Thank you so very much, Michael, for your space and time. This has been an amazing journey, and hooray and cheers to whatever you're doing. Okay, thank you so very much.
You're welcome. My privilege.